The life of rapper Tupac Amaru Shakur is one heavily shrouded in adversity, intrigue, and celebration. Although the critically acclaimed Nth Times Platinum artist only created music for 5 short years prior to his untimely death, he is one of the foremost influential anthologies of any rapper to date. He stands as a polarizing dialectic, equal parts public enemy and social justice warrior. Tupac was a man caught in crossfire, who constantly battled to maintain the thug facade his brand was built upon, while simultaneously attempting to redefine the phrase altogether. In this video, I will attempt to understand the highly multidimensional social ethos that remains behind his thug life persona through the dissection of his early life and public image as it pertains to the commodification of his brand and the social perspective of the man himself. Tupac Shakur was undoubtedly a victim of generational race-based poverty. Born to former Black Panther Party activist Afeni Shakur, Tupac spent the predominant portion of his time in utero behind bars prior to his mother's release from prison. Yet, despite the financial shortcomings of his childhood, Tupac's mother ensured he grew up with a wealth of wisdom at his disposal. In fact, he often accredited his mother for shaping the personal and political philosophies highlighted in the poetic prose of his raps. However, their poverty ensured a constant lack of housing, leaving Tupac to spend his childhood consistently in motion and out of place. In his solitude, Tupac immersed himself in his education, turning to writing and journaling as a primary means of self-expression and catharsis. Yet, Tupac Shakur is in no way infamous because of his academic achievement. In reality, Tupac is immortalized in the minds of many as the poster child of the thug life ideology. His music was persistently blamed for inciting violence, and he himself was wildly misunderstood and broadly feared, especially by non-rap music listeners. For example, the dark subject matter of Shakur's principal album, Tupacalypse Now, was met by many with shock and outrage. And yet, when examined within the context of his life experiences, it seems the young artist was simply drawing from what he knew: the streets. Tupac moved to crime-ridden Marin County at the age of 17, wherein his mother formed an unfortunate addiction to crack cocaine. This promoted his departure from home, which unfortunately led him to only be met with more adversity. Tupac hustled his way through hardship and into the group Digital Underground, which eventually gave way to his solo career. His first album, while by no means autobiographical, is a reflection of the communities he grew up in. They tell stories of poverty, police brutality, and even teenage pregnancy, each a vignette of the privation he bore witness to within his community. However, the perspective from which one views Shakur's art is what makes it so dialectical in nature. Tupac can be victimized by some and vilified by others. Following the release of his first record, Tupac had to build up and maintain the street credibility he boasted about in his songs. This was in large part due to the fact that prior to their release, Tupac had no criminal record. In the creation of this hardened thug persona, Tupac crafted a personification of himself in order to align with the perceived status quo of his gangster community, which created controversy and fueled record sales. However, if someone from a different social location prejudiciously assumed, off his appearance alone, that the stories in his songs were about his own gangster actions, they'd see a completely different, murderous criminal. Tupac's gangster front holds a grander sentiment when we contextualize it within the industry of hip-hop and its consumption. As hip-hop has become increasingly popular, it's proven to be increasingly profitable, leading to the commodification of the once underground art form. Sociologist Dr. Wright stated the following of the subject. With its commodification, the social structure that produced Black Rage, namely the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, became its chief controller and profiteer. Black Rage is now ironically appropriated and controlled by the very power structure that produced it. Perceptions of race persist through media-manipulated imagery. When we view Tupac's gangster persona through this scope, it becomes undeniably apparent why a man who was far more parts activist than gangbanger felt compelled to lean into the latter. White America strongholds the control of public perception and feels far more comfortable consuming rap that reinforces negative stereotypes of black men than its positive counterpart. This results in a thematic homogenization within rap music, one that Tupac heavily catered to. The turbulent life and career of the artist make one thing abundantly clear. Tupac Shakur transcends normative socio-political ideals surrounding race, gender, and hip-hop as a whole, and therefore cannot be accurately understood without being viewed holistically. When one looks beneath the shallow facade, Shakur was many more parts poet and activist than he was thug. Moreover, Tupac remains as a stark example of the fatal outcomes the commodification and homogenization of rap music have potential for.